I went to the 1 o'clock service. The padre was like, "It's close to game time. Let's wrap it up," to the congregation, and everybody was like, "Amen." Out the door.
What's up, you guys? I'm Rachel DeMita, and welcome to the Courtside Club. Today, I am joined by a former NFL player and also Super Bowl champ. You can now find him on Sirius XM. Willie Colon, welcome to the Courtside Club.
Hey, how's everything? Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for making the time.
Beautiful setup, by the way.
I love it. We can people watch while we chat too,
which is like a thing to do in New York, especially if you're in Midtown or any borough. People, the problem with people who come to New York, they think Manhattan is all of New York.
Right.
There's 5 boroughs with its own culture and personality, so Manhattan just happens to be one of them. So.
Honestly, it's the best thing to do. You will never be bored. My friend and I were sitting at the window at dinner last night, like, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's like a fishbowl. It's like you're looking at a bunch of fish just go up and down the street. Yeah, that's how it is.
I'm actually really glad that you specifically were able to make the time to chat with us today, because I asked my Twitter followers last night, like, what topics do you want to hear us talk about on Courtside Club? And somebody mentioned life after sports.
Yeah.
Which I was a former athlete myself. I didn't play professionally, but I played Division I, and leaving the game of basketball was hard.
You went to UT?
I did not. We played against UT, but I went to Old Dominion, actually.
Okay, really? I went to Hofstra.
Oh, yeah. So I was getting recruited by them. I actually saw that you went to Hofstra.
Yeah.
And they were in the mix. I loved Hofstra, by the way.
You could be part of the pride.
I know.
I won't hold it against you, though.
I know. Looking back, Old Dominion wasn't the best choice for me. And I left early because I didn't make the best decision.
Gotcha.
But you're somebody who probably most of your life played football. Am I wrong? Like, when did you start playing football?
So I started playing football when I was 14 years old.
So a little bit later.
Yeah, well, I'm from the Bronx, New York, so I'm a city kid. And most kids that grow up in the city play basketball or baseball. There's no football fields around for us to kind of throw the pigskin around, other than on the street. So I grew up a basketball kid, hooped for a long time. I even hooped in high school, but when I was 14 years old, I just knew football was my calling, largely because I wanted to be like Lawrence Taylor. The ex-great giant. He was like everything to me, and Lawrence Taylor in particular I was attracted to and wanted to be like, because he played with like a lawlessness. I'm the middle child, so I'm naturally rebellious, if you will. And so I was always drawn to him and drawn to the game of football. And my freshman year, I was actually late because I was playing basketball. I was actually late to training camp, and my first day of school, I ran downstairs, and our freshman football coach, his name was Wild Bill Jensen. And Wild Bill Jensen had these Coke bottle glasses. He had this dusty old snapback hat, and he wore high tube socks. He was like the typical football coach. He was ripping cigs.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
this is like out of a movie.
he should have been in the movie. And I walked up to him. I was like, "Hey, coach, my name is William Colon. I want to be a part of the team. How can I do so?" He was like, "Well, our spots are pretty much filled. You're late. I don't know if you're going to be able to participate this year." And I was heartbroken because I, obviously wanted to play. And he was just like, "What size shoe do you wear?" And I was just like, "Oh, I'm a 14. He's like, "How old are you?" I was like, "I'm 14. He was just like, "Won't you be here tomorrow? Come up tomorrow, bring some sweat clothes. You're just going to work out with the team." And so I was thrilled. I ran home and told my mother, I was like, "I'm playing football. There's nothing you can do about it." She was like, "I don't know about that." I was like, "Ma, please," I begged her. She was like, "Okay." I was like, "But I need a sweatsuit." So she took me to Modell's. I don't know if Modell's is a nationwide, but it was a sporting goods store. And I brought a sweatsuit. And I was literally on the field the next day. And old school, how they used to, old school high school football, the freshman team, the JV team, and the senior team would all warm up together. So it looked like one big army. And I was like the last guy in row 32 with the random sweatshirt, and everybody's dressed in a uniform. And everybody's looking at me like, "Who the hell is this guy?" And I was going through all the drills, up, downs, and push-ups. And literally, I was in one of the tackling lines because they were teaching guys how to tackle. And I was in line. And I was about to go with no uniform or whatever. And I remember one of the defensive line coaches, his name was Coach Coop, literally grabbed me by my collar and was like, "What are you doing? You don't have a helmet. Like, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get us killed." And I was just like, "Oh, I was going to participate." And he was just like, "Yeah, when you get your helmet." And so once they realized I was serious about it, I was like really passionate about it. I ended up getting my helmet and my shoulder pads. And they put me at fullback because we ran a triple option. and I ended up making captain of the team.
Your freshman year?
Yeah, my freshman year.
Of the freshman team, or did you play? You played up?
I made captain of my freshman football team, and then the next year I went straight to varsity.
Yeah. That's good. Were you your size? No, I mean, obviously not your size.
I was always a big kid.
But you were at 14, like you...
Yeah, I was at 14. Yeah. I was at 14. Looked like I had a paper route. Like I was just like I could throw some cinder blocks around. I was a naturally big kid and always very aggressive. Grew up a WWE fan, a WWF fan back then.
That's cool.
So I was always listening. I was just a boy. I was rumble tumble. That's always been my personality.
Sorry, I know we just dug right into it, but it's so interesting to me to see somebody now who obviously has accomplished like the highest goal of, I feel like most football players is to win a Super Bowl, and you got to that moment. Can you talk about what that feeling was when you got drafted?
My story is unique in a lot of different ways. I was my senior year of college. I had achieved a lot of accolades, but I necessarily wasn't focused on being a professional football player. I was more focused on how am I going to survive once I graduate. Meaning I was living with my quarterback at the time. He had a little attic for a room. I was paying him $500 rent. But in the mix of that, my offensive line coach, Damon Wroblewski, who's now with James Madison, actually, who's the offensive line coach there, he was just like, hey, bud, the NFL's knocking. You need to start taking this seriously. And I was more the precipice of saying, hey, the NFL can be after me all they want. I have to eat. Because that's what people don't realize. Like, once you enter the draft, there's at least 3 or 4 months. And if you don't get drafted, you gotta figure out life. And so I was bouncing, and my agent was like, listen, Joe Linta, that's my agent. He was like, "Listen, you gotta do right, because if you're gonna go to these teams, they're gonna they're gonna give you physicals, and you can't go to the Eagles all bruised up. You can't. At the time, Andy Reid was the coach for the Eagles. Like you can't walk up to Andy Reid with a patch on your head, bruised up, and you're pretty much trying to get a job from him. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, all right. So I started taking training seriously, and when the draft came along. Pretty much what happened was, so how the draft works, you have to give a landline and you have to give a cell phone. You have to give numbers to both.
Yeah.
The landline that I gave was to the house I was staying at. And so day one of the NFL draft happens. I watched a lot of guys who I knew kind of get drafted. And I'm saying to myself, all right, obviously I'm not one of them, which is fine. But I just kind of just wanted to get out of the house. I just didn't want to be there no more. So I ended up going to my sister's home. Go to my sister's house, sleep on the couch, plug my charger. At the time, I had a T-Mobile Razor. I don't know how the kids remember the Razors.
Yeah,
I had a Razor.
I do remember.
So I had a T-Mobile Razor, and I plugged it in, fell asleep on the couch, wake up the next morning, and my phone is not working. I'm freaking out. I was like, why is my phone not working?
Yeah.
And I'm doing everything. They tell you all the tricks. Put it in a bag of rice, or I'm doing all that nonsense.
Literally anything, put it in rice.
Right. And so I'm doing all this nonsense, and my sister comes in, and she's like, why are you freaking out? I was like, my phone's not working. The landline that I gave him isn't to this apartment, it's to where I was just at. And she was just like, it's going to work out, whatever. The NFL, day 2 of the draft starts. Literally, as the draft is going on, my phone turns on miraculously. The first call that I get on that phone is my agent. He calls me. He's like, what are you doing? Because at this time, 3 or 4 teams had already went off the board.
Right.
2 of the teams that I thought I was going to get drafted to already got offensive linemen, by the way. So I'm mortified. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, Joe, my phone. He's like, so let me understand this. You're not home to where you gave the landline to for the NFL people to call you. And currently you're at your sister's home talking on a cell phone that barely works.
Yeah. This
is the NFL draft. What are you doing? And so I'm like, man, I like, Joe, I don't, I'm sorry. I was like, I don't know what's going on. He was like, the Cowboys are potentially going to call you. We don't know what's going to transpire out of that. But he goes, so he's frustrated. He's over me. He's just like, hang up. He's like, I'll call you. Just be by your phone. Sure enough, I'm destroyed because I feel like I'm blown every opportunity. Who knows who's trying to get a hold of me? Obviously, I'm not home where I said I was going to be. And so I put my phone down. I walk to the terrace. I'm just kind of overlooking the buildings. And my sister's like, well, I'm going to make breakfast and everything's going to be fine. And I'm like, okay, even though I'm like destroyed inside. And my phone rings. And she's like, it's 412. Who's 412? I was just like, I don't know. And so she picks up the phone. She's like, hello. And the first person on the phone was Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher was like, hey, can I talk to Willie Colon? And my sister's like, yeah. She's like, Will, do you know who Bill is? I'm like, I don't know no Bill. I'm like, hang up.
Oh,
She
no.
hangs up.
Seriously? Come on.
She hangs up, picks up they call again. And she goes, hello, can I talk to Willie Colon? And she's like, Willie, it's Coach Bill Cowher. So she's like, Coach Bill Cowher's like, yeah, now I'll grab the phone. Give me the phone. And he's like, hey, Willie, how you doing? Do you want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler? And I'm just like, yeah. He goes, turn around. I turn around. He goes, we're picking you right now, 4th round, 131. So I turn around with my phone in my hand, and I see Willie Colon out of the hospital, 4th round, 131. And I just cry. I just melted. Like a human, like exploded. My family's crying. And that was just a very surreal moment of just, that meant a lot to me because it was just all about perseverance. I had been through a lot in my career, and it was just a lot. So then once I got to the NFL and playing for the Steelers, it was a whirlwind because the Steelers had won the Super Bowl prior to me getting drafted. They had beat the Seattle Seahawks in Detroit. That was Jerome Bettis' last game. And so the team and the city was just buzzing. Like any team that has just won, like the city is just like, they got the big cojones. Like you can't tell them. So everybody from the grandmother to the babies had this swagger about them. It was insane. And Pittsburgh is already rich in tradition, especially about their Steelers. And here I am, a New Yorker, really not knowing what to feel about it because I got to make the team. I didn't win the Super Bowl. I'm just a new guy. And 2, really kind of just a fish out of water from the standpoint that I wasn't used to people noticing me or knowing my name. And so when I was out eating, people would just stare at me, and I'd be like, in New York, when people mad dog you, you're like, you got a problem?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it took a lot of me just being acclimated to that city. It was a little intimidating because I just wasn't, I went to a small school in Hofstra. I wasn't used to people noticing who I was or nor cared at that. So, but playing there was just an amazing experience.
I feel like that can go one of 2 ways, right? Because you walk in as the new guy to this established team and you're going to learn quickly, or else you'll sink. Or you can go to a team that's trying to rebuild and you have an easier chance maybe to make your mark and help out.
Well, I think every team has their own way of going about it. I think the Steelers do a great job of letting guys mature. Like one thing I think happens in sports, and I think it doesn't happen in other sports, other teams rather, is that good teams invest and they don't rush the maturation period of an individual player, right? And largely because they have guys in front of them that they can necessarily depend on right away. Bad teams, I think, may not have that access or that level of depth, and they rush a guy to be right where he needs to be, where they want him to be right away, and that guy's necessarily not there. And it's just because a guy's 22 years old, coming from Opelika, Florida. Now he's in Orchard Park, Buffalo. And so there's a lot that goes into a guy being where he needs to be from a professional standpoint. You played sports. I mean, you can look apart, but from the neck up, if you're not right, it's never going to translate onto the field.
I want to go back to something you were talking about pre-draft when you said that you still had to figure it out. You're like, this is great. The NFL's interested in me. They haven't cut any checks for me yet, though. So I have to look out for myself. That was something for me when I was in college. I knew when I was playing basketball that I did not want to play professionally. So I wanted to get a good education and set myself up for whatever was next beyond basketball. Okay. I felt like where I was at, I wasn't getting that. And I think things have changed in the past, like that was 13 years ago when I was at Old Dominion. But what do you think that college coaches or programs could do a little bit better? Because there is a very small percentage of these college athletes who play professionally.
Well, in reference to like getting the guys ready for the pros?
I just think getting them ready for life and not even not if they don't go professional, I think
a lot of big programs do their best to get guys acclimated and ready for life. However, there are the other schools who don't necessarily have the refunds nor the kind of that powerhouse, that kind of alumni association that, listen, a guy from Ohio State, he just put his degree on like, hey, I went to Ohio State, I played football, a guy's got a chance, he can get a job, he can figure it out. Other schools don't have that access. But I think what schools are trying to do, which I think they haven't done, they're allowing more guys who either played the sport or played for the university to come back, tell their story, and kind of be that bridge, which helps, right? And so it's a mixed bag. Sometimes I think these kids are so coddled, it handicaps them. But then at the same time, you know, a lot of these kids do need help, and I think it's about finding the access and learning how to go about it. I think that's the gap.
What do you see happening with NIL? Because again, I think that there's a lot of cool opportunity there as well. But then I also see already brands and such taking advantage of college kids for some of these deals because they will do it for whatever money because they don't have anything.
Yeah.
So I just wonder down the line. I think it will get more
tighten up, if you will.
Yeah, I don't know what the word is,
it's
but
pretty much pre-free agency, and that's what it is. And I think right now I'm happy our guys are getting paid because I think for generations, you know, the NCAA has been making money off the athletes' backs for years.
For sure.
However, the issues, because I have guys close friends of mine, guys who I consider brothers who are now position coaches at a lot of these, you know, big institutions and big programs. And the issues that they're running into is it's necessarily not the negotiation process with, you know, if you had a son or if I had a son that's like, all right, he's going to go play for Florida. Mm-hmm. And Florida's like, all right, we understand we have to give you something. It's not somebody qualified making that deal. It's like your Uncle Larry who owns the car dealership now talking to Bill Napier about getting their nephew $500,000 where their kid is like really market value is probably $200,000. Mm-hmm. And so I just hope that one, it does get tight. It does build some, you know, some framework of what's allowed and what's not allowed.
That's a good word
I think a lot of coaches are not worried about the NIL. I think they're more worried about that, you know, if you're going to hand this kid off a bank, you know, like the quarterback, I forgot his name is Nico. He's going to Tennessee. I think he's got like $8 million in NIL. Like, this kid has made all that money and hasn't played for Tennessee yet. Who knows if he's going to be the guy they recruited to? Yeah. So now the kid is like not thinking about playing for the Niners or the Cowboys. Now he's like, well, if I do what I need to do in high school, I can make a good chunk playing for the University of Miami or playing for Texas. And so the perception and the mountain has sort of shrunk a little bit, if you will. Like the mountaintop was like, I'm going to get drafted, you know, first day. I'm going to make bank. Everybody going to eat. Now the kid is like, well, I go to USC, get $2 million. I can still change my family's life. So it's definitely different. And now coaches, their promotion, how they promote the game and how they're getting kids to join their programs is different because they're like, hey, you know, you don't have to worry about the league. We can take care of you. Mm-hmm. And guys are like, okay. Especially when you're telling guys right now, and which is true, and it's actually factually, the average career for NFL players is 3 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say because you had a long career.
I did. I was blessed, and I had a lot of injuries too. I went through 2 back-to-back IRs, and I finished with an IR. So, but I was extremely blessed to overcome all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get more into your life after football, all the cool things that you're doing now. Yeah. But on the Courtside Club, we do like to take a halftime break.
Okay, let's do it.
I know you grew up here, but you spent so much time in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
So I have a list of categories, and I want you to tell me.
Are you going to check my user card? I feel like this is about to happen.
I want you to tell me which one is better, New York or Pittsburgh. Well, we'll start off with an easy one, okay? So the weather.
New York, because there's more gray days in Pittsburgh than actual Seattle, Washington. So that's a fact.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's gray a lot.
What?
It's very gray in Pittsburgh. So I'm going to say New York.
Okay, so New York. What about the food?
Oh, New York hands down.
Okay, this one I feel like is a no-brainer too. The nightlife.
See, that's why I'm gonna push back.
Okay.
Because I Willie Colon frequent the streets of Pittsburgh a lot. And when you're a Pittsburgh Steeler and you're winning, it's a whole different vibe. So
what's it like? You just get in anywhere at any time, anything that you want?
So this is what I tell people. New York is awesome because obviously it's the vibe, it's the culture, it's the fast pace. You could be rubbing elbows with a hot model or a superstar. But the thing about Pittsburgh, which I love and I hold dear to my heart, was that the city itself and the people itself protected the players. So, meaning if I, Willie Colon, was walking out of establishment now, you know, and I was overserved, and I was stumbling down Carson Street, I would have fans come up to me like, "Hey, big fella, you okay? Let me get you home."
Wow. Police
Police officers would be like, "Hey, big fella, how are you getting home?"
Yeah.
And this was pre-social media, so you felt like it allowed you to be human. It wasn't always kind of under this big, you know what I mean? So, and it made you feel like you was a part of the community, because I would be, at, Penny's Diner or having a gyro, 2 o'clock in the morning, had him beat Cleveland Browns, slapping down some food, and I was doing it amongst family. People who's like, hey, good game, big fella. You want to finish this plate of fries? Of course I do. I'm starving. And so it was fun, man. It was fun. And we were around people who always, the city never felt like they were out to get you. If anything, they were trying to protect you, and our payback to them was just by winning.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh.
Which you don't get in all cities. There
At
are
all.
some cities.
I don't know if it's still like that in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I think the times have changed, but I know for a fact how we used to party, they protected us.
Yeah.
And our way of paying them back was by winning.
I will say, though, I'm from Akron, Ohio.
Okay.
And so Ohio sports fans are very similar.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah.
Like, even me, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan first, but was at the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And was going hard for the Bengals. Like, just because that was Ohio
OHIO.
represent. I have never been so invested in any sporting event.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I was like, but no, this is Ohio. Like, they're doing it for
100%.
us, And
that's how Pittsburgh is. Like, once they call you theirs, you're theirs. And they're for you. Through and through. They're for you.
All right, next up, the practice facility.
See, it's changed. Pittsburgh was very bare bones, but in a very classy and professional way. The Jets is like, it's like top notch. Woody Johnson threw money. It's like like our cafeteria to our weight room to. It's Jets probably have one of the, and I've heard this from other guys who have come from other places, say Jets probably have one of the best facilities in the league.
So which one would you pick, though? Do you like that kind of rough around the edges, or do you like the new and improved?
So I'm going to go Pittsburgh. I do like the blue collar approach. We didn't have like a milkshake station. Like the Jets have like way too much going on. It's really, really nice. But the Pittsburgh was like, what you see is what you got. But it kept you humble.
Cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
All right, coaching staff.
Pittsburgh Steelers. Not even close.
Easy money.
Yeah.
What about your teammates?
Pittsburgh Steelers, hands down. There's something that's like, listen, winning is the ultimate deodorant, right? You cannot like half the team, but you're winning and you're okay with them. When you're losing and you're still dealing with guys you don't like in the locker room, or like how their approach to football or how they do their job, it can become hard. When I landed to the Jets in 2013, we were the second youngest team in the league. And they had lost so many key figures in that locker room that the whole organization was a reset. And there was ways they could have recovered, but they never did. And it was a lot. And I was new, because I was this battle horse from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I played in multiple playoff games, been in 2 Super Bowls, went to AFC championships. I had all this going for me from a professional standpoint, to step into a locker room where a lot of guys who you probably respected before you got there just seemed disconnected, or maybe bitter because of the guys they had went through battle with for so long and no longer in the building. It was really like a 2 or 3 year grieving period that organization went through. And I witnessed it, and I tried to be, a significant figure, and I think I did the best I could, but I also was injured at times. So, but it was the Jets had went through a lot when I got there. And
so you felt like the chemistry never got there during the time you were there?
It never was what it could have been, but it also was a large part of it was because of the guys who were role models or significant pieces of part of that organization have retired. And so a lot of guys because I think, and you could probably speak to this, there are people who are vocal and rah-rah people and who can play, and there's some people who are introverts just want to do their job. But when you're dealing with a young team, and those guys who are vocal leaders or people who lead by example aren't there anymore, the guys who need that kind of guidance are left to kind of fend for themselves. And if you have bad habits and you create a bad culture, that kind of festers. So that's what it was.
Quarterbacks then and now.
Oh, I went from Big Ben to Geno Smith. So I think that's, and it's not even Geno's fault.
I'm not even trying to base anybody.
It's not even Geno's fault, because it really should have been. I should have went to Ben Roethlisberger to Mark Sanchez. But Mark ended up getting hurt my first year with the Jets, and ultimately he left. And Geno, just as good as he was in college, just wasn't ready for that type of situation. Not that he's not capable, because he does have another shot in Seattle, and I know he's in a quarterback battle competition with Drew Lock. But I felt bad for Geno, because he was drafted to be the savior, but he just wasn't ready. If he would have had 2 years of just kind of really figuring it out and things got a little better, he'd probably still be a Jet.
All right. So lastly, I feel like you already answered this one, but the fans.
Man, I be feeling bad for Jet Nation, man. And I'm on SNY, cover the pre and post, and Jet Nation, man, they just been through it. They've been dragged. They haven't been to the playoffs in 11 years. And every year, this time of year, they're forced to have high expectations about a team that they deep down inside don't know about, but because they're so avid, they're going to feel like this their year, but you don't know until they go through it. Steeler Nation is different because it's a generational thing. Like, go to Walmart or Target. You know how it is. Yeah. You're gonna see a baby to an 85-year-old lady to some dude that looks like a substitute teacher, all wearing Steeler jerseys. Yeah. And throughout the city of Pittsburgh on a Friday, maybe Thursday, the city is dripped in black and gold, and it just is what it is. So I say it all the time. Being a Steeler is like being a part of a religion. It's definitely like a cult. It's like not even a question. Like, I remember one time I was on IR, and I think we had like an afternoon game. It was like a 4:25 game. I went to the 1 o'clock service, and literally the service is like going on, and the Padre was like, "Hey, it's close to game time. Let's wrap it up," to the congregation, and everybody was like, "Amen." Out the door. And I was just like looking around like,
so good. And
it was straight like that. Yeah. Like, people were just out of there.
And everybody was on board with
everybody.
it. Yeah.
Like, this one lady was like, "Yeah, I got my greens on, girl. We got to go watch the Steelers." And I remember watching this one dude was like, "Yeah, I got to get to the grill." Like, it's a day, man. And on Thursday, you would see RVs and trailers. People already out there for a Sunday game on Thursday. Cool. And our parking lot would be slammed with people. And I'd be like, "Oh, is a concert coming to town?" I was like, "No." I remember one dude was like, "You are the concert." We drove from Kentucky. We gonna spend our weekends here. And so
it was like the Beatles in Pittsburgh, but at all times.
Even in Latrobe, like training camp, people on their time, their vacations, like, "Oh, we going to Latrobe to vacation for 3 days, watch Steelers, we're gonna get back in the RV and we're gonna go home." That's cool. That's people's vacation time. Yeah. So it's wild.
So Pittsburgh, hands down.
No, it's not even close. Not even close. But I love Jet Nation, man. They haven't had the taste of winning in their mouth for so long that they're dehydrated. They need to be hydrated with some love, man.
Do you have any predictions for New York sports teams in general for these upcoming? I would say I don't follow along as much with hockey and baseball, but basketball and football.
Well, we're fortunate. Our Yankees are really hot right now. We got to pay Judge. I mean, he's the best player in baseball right now. Our Mets are doing well. I think the Yankees got a shot to go the distance. We got to figure out. We got to get some more consistency with our pitching. Football wise, the Giants are a little bit in a lull because their offensive line is up and down. What type of year Saquon's going to have is serious. But the number one question is, who's Daniel Jones going to be for that offense? And I like Coach Brian DeBall. They just acquired from Buffalo. I think he's a fascinating coach. So they got a lot of things they got to answer. Jet wise, man, the Jets remind me a lot of the Yankees. From the late 90s, because they have drafted their core four. We got Mekhi Becton, you got Zach Wilson, now you got Michael Carter, Elijah Moore. And in this draft, I think they've had one of the best drafts they had in probably organizational history, because they got, like, usually when you draft talent, need, and depth. They answered all of that. And they got guys they can build on. So it's just a matter of them staying healthy. And then a lot of guys they acquired last year who were hurt, like Carl Lawson. They got a lot of those guys back. So if you inject the guys that were supposed to be significant pieces for them last year that weren't able to played. Now they're back. Plus this young talent. Plus they were able to acquire guys who could really go get it. I thought Quan Alexander, the linebacker they picked up, it was a huge move to complement C.J. Mosley. So with all that said, I think the Jets are going to have a better year than what people expect. However, they still have to learn how to win. You know, like you've played sports, and it's about playing all 4 quarters. You know, you can look good on paper, but you got to play.
I mean, we saw that the easiest example was in the NBA in the last couple seasons. The teams that looked amazing on paper, almost like they were cheating on paper, and then
can't find them.
Didn't even make it to the playoffs.
Brooklyn Nets are a prime example. But for our Knicks, man, I mean, I know a lot of people, who's Jalen Brunson? And we gave up all this stuff. You know, listen, we got an opportunity to have R.J. Barrett, Jalen Brunson, Mitchell Robinson. Obviously, we still need some more pieces, but we got a lot of draft picks that we can build for the future. You need equity, and we were able to get it.
So your life after football, the question that we started with, that we're just now getting back to. Did you always think that you wanted to go into the broadcast space? You were with Barstool for a little while, on Sirius XM now, and been killing it in this space.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't. No, I was very bitter when I left the field, because I left the field injured and forced to leave because my knees went bad on me. So I was really much just in a gray space about what I wanted to do next. I was doing a couple hits on SNY, and my wife was like, my wife Akeisha was like, "Hey man, if you take this serious, you can be pretty good at it." And I was like,
"This is a trend in your life." You know that?
Right. Yeah, women are obviously smarter.
It was the same with football. They're like, if you take this serious, you could go pro.
And part of my pushback was because I still wanted to play. I didn't want to leave the field, and I wasn't anti-media, but I was just like, half of these guys don't know what the hell they're talking about. So why? Like, I don't want to be that guy. Mm-hmm. And the guys who were leaving the field and kind of like get into that space of that role, some of those guys weren't welcomed back into the locker room because they were talking too much. Okay. Letting go of house secrets, putting the team that they formerly played for in weird positions. And I was like, I necessarily don't want to be that guy. So I just had a very skewed idea of what my role would be in media. And when I was able to walk off the field, do a lot of things for SNY, where I'm currently at doing the Jets pre and post, it took me a lot to just be comfortable, one, in front of a camera, two, just be comfortable on what I wanted to say and how I wanted to deliver my message. It's, a lot of times when you, as athletes, especially when you're playing, you feel like when the mic is in front of your face, you have to say something. Like you don't have any say, which is the opposite. Yeah. You can say I don't have anything to say, right? Beat it. Or you can say what you want to say, but understand that, say what you mean and mean what you say. And then so for me, when I got onto the other side of the fence, I realized that there are professionals who do care about their takes and how they go about their stuff. And then there's guys who just want to cut onions so they can be in the headlines, right? So everybody fits a different role and lane, and it's just a matter of you figuring out what you want to do, how you want to go about it, and in whatever content space you choose. When I landed with Barstool, I didn't know what Barstool was.
Really?
No, I landed to Barstool because of Julie Stewart-Banks. She was like, "Hey, Willie, I'm at Barstool now." And I was like, "What the hell is Barstool?" She's like, "No, but I really think it's good for you. Why don't you come try out, whatever." So I kind of auditioned for their morning show. And it was Julie Stewart-Banks, Francis Ellis, and it was me being the third wheel. And a couple other guys I think they had interviewed for the position, but it just didn't work out. She called me over. I smashed it. It was a home run. And Dave Portnoy was like, "Hey, man, like, we like you. We think you're one of, we think you can work here. We think you can work at Barstool." And I took the job that I had I had worked a couple months at Barstool. I had took the job not really knowing what Barstool was or what it was all about, but I did love kind of this free space it lived in. Like it was almost like it was very freeing from the standpoint like you weren't being judged for trying to like hot takes. It was actually the opposite. Like the wilder and more spontaneous you could be, the more you were accepted. And I just loved Dave's approach, how he ran the company, and at the time, I just loved his kind of like wild cowboy, just kind of just who stood on it.
Still going strong with that.
Yeah, he's still doing his thing. But I loved, in my early years of Barstool, it felt very different. It felt very free, and I liked it.
I feel like that's why they would like you, though, because we haven't known each other very long.
Yeah.
I appreciate the conversation that we're having, but it seems like you're just authentically you.
I try to be.
You're just sharing what you do best. You see the news reporters on TV, they're more polished and they speak a certain way and hit a certain note, but you bring this kind of realness that I think is relatable and easy to listen to. And I could see a Barstool being like, he's just a good fit and he's unique and he has the playing experience. They don't have too many athlete talent over there.
Yeah.
So
Barstool it's weird because when people ask me about my time at Barstool, obviously I'm not there anymore. I was fortunate enough to do the morning show with Lars McCarthy. I did with Francis, Pat Zah, and Wayne Jetzky, and those guys are like family to me, and I loved what we had. And I don't know how to feel about Barstool. It's weird because I get asked that a lot, and I'm in a very gray space because there's people there who work there who I love and have a lot of respect for, and then there's the other side where I'm just like, yeah, that's not it. And so I'm still like, and I've been away from Barstool going on like a year or two because I worked there for 3 years. I'm still very like in a weird space about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now you're at Sirius with on Mad Dog Radio.
Yep, I'm on Mad Dog Sports Channel 82 with my two co-hosts, Evan Cohen and Mike Babchek. Evan Cohen's the very polished, super professional, kind of the point guard of the show. And Mike Babchek is kind of the sex, drugs, rock and roll guy. He's the wild guy, and I'm kind of the in between. And we have a very good dynamic. I think I started working on the show last September, so I'm still learning who they are and what's my role, and we're getting it together. But we're having fun. And I think what we try to do is, if you're gonna wake up 6 a.m. and turn us on, we want to be entertaining, right? Like this,
for sure.
And so, and we're trying to figure it out. I mean, I think we have fun of talking sports, talking life, talking football, and talking everything that the headlines require, if you will. So I think we do a good job at it.
Are there any stories right now that you've been following in the NFL or in the sports world in general?
I think right now the live golf thing is hot, right? Yeah. And me on the show we compare it to when the NWO was going against the WCW. You had the Wolfpack versus the Empire, so to speak, and it's weird to see those. Bubba Watson just went over. You talk about Phil Mickelson. You talk about Bryson DeChambeau and all those guys. They've all jumped ship, and you have Tiger and McElroy.
How much did he decline again?
I think they said $700 to $800 million, but Tiger has that. Like Tiger is almost a billionaire with everything.
I mean, to me, that sounds insane, but yeah.
Yeah, I would have been like, yeah, let's get out of here.
I signed yesterday.
Yeah, so that's interesting right now, and I think, I'm excited. I'm excited about Nick Saban, Jimbo Fisher. I think it's October 12th. What that looks like, and how I think that should be on pay-per-view. I don't know if a college game has ever been on pay-per-view, but I feel like that's going to be like a heavyweight fight. And I'm excited. I actually got that one marked off. So I'm excited about college football this year. NFL-wise, there's so many spinning headlines. Obviously, the Deshaun Watson thing is a hot button issue, right?
I feel like everybody's had their 2 cents. And
everybody's had their 2 cents. It is wild because it's one of those situations where no matter what you say, it's just such a heavy conversation this time. Like you have to be so careful, but you just kind of got to sit and wait. Obviously, the NFL has appealed what Judge Sue Robertson has issued, the six game suspension, and Goodell's like, So, but that whole thing is so layered that it just, the more it unravels, the more you learn about the NFL, what they really care about, what they really don't. So,
yeah. And then us sitting on the outside, we will never know the intricate details
at all
that are going on
at all. So. It's for your Browns, how do you feel as a Browns fan? Like, what's your perception about it?
As a Browns fan in general, it's not surprising that something like this would happen with one of our players because I feel like Cleveland sports are just cursed. Okay. And like, it's always like a season of ours where we're like, doing the thing, something. Like Johnny Manziel's another example. Sure. It's like we get so much hope to be let down so often.
Yeah.
So from a straight, like, whatever it is, for a Browns fan, not fun.
Yeah.
The other side, obviously, from what I'm hearing of, like, the allegations and then the amount of games, and then the other players who have gotten 10 times the amount of games suspended or year-long suspension,
Sure.
whatever, it's a little crazy.
Yeah,
So,
my take on it is I blame the NFL for not staying in this lane, right? Like you talk about one thing the NBA does extremely well is what I thought was a smart choice was whatever happens off the court, let the courts deal with that. We can only control the NBA. So if a guy does something off the court that's not right or egregious, there's a lawyer, there's a judge, and there's a grand jury that handles that. That's not for the NBA to decide to be the judge, jury, and execution. The NFL, it's not Roger Goodell's fault because the Players Association and the NFL players have given Roger Goodell, when they were in CBA talks, the right to be the judge, juror, and execution. So it pisses me off from the standpoint because Deshaun Watson went through 2 grand juries, right? They didn't get nothing on him. They said no. Then you went and hired a judge, and Judge Sue Robinson. She gave you her decision, and now you're saying that's not enough. And she only came up with the 6 games because she felt like it was consistent to what Roger Goodell did with Ben Roethlisberger and Ezekiel Elliott. Okay. So she was just like, well, this is the standard you set, the NFL. I'm just going along with it. And now you're telling me I'm wrong. Right. So it clearly shows that the NFL isn't prepared or inept to handle these situations. So give it to the pros. Like hand it off to them and just worry about football because there's women who are pissed off. Everybody's pissed off in some form of way. Get out the way and let the pros handle it. Let the people who do this handle that and worry about football. And that's why I congratulate the NBA in that regard because they're like, listen, we're going to focus on basketball. We don't have a chamber of commerce to kind of delegate this. And so it's not.
They're being, I guess, more reactive than just having something in place. Like, if something like this happens, this is our protocol.
Right. Well, they have rules, they have things, but they haven't judged every rule,
same,
every situation the same.
Yeah,
right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And that's why it's like they're so up. Like Josh Gordon lost 20. I think he was suspended 25 games and. I can't believe.
Wasn't he with us for a while too?
A little bit. He was hellified with the Browns. The guy has been suspended, and we're talking about weed. Talk about the weed culture now. Everybody's smoking. You walking down the street, it smells like a whole dispensary. So, and so it's been so up and down, so all over the place that it's hard for the fan or anybody with any sense try to rationalize where we're at right now.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Sorry to just take you down that dark rabbit hole.
No, it was cool.
I have one last question for you. This is another thing that has been spiraling. There's a lot of athletes coming out saying that there are certain commentators, reporters, personalities on television who have not played the sport anymore, who shouldn't be, basically. Yeah. What do you think about that, being a former athlete who is now in this media world?
Well, I think it's unfair because not everybody can be 6'8". Not everybody could be 6'6" with a jump shot. Not everybody could be 6'3", 360 pounds and play offensive guard.
Yeah.
What's happening now because of social media, people are being held more accountable for their comments and how they distribute it. Because now, if I say XYZ about KD doesn't have to reach for my number. He can just tweet back at me about what I said.
Yeah.
And so now it's a more instant reaction, and it's a more level of accountability of what I'm about to say about a particular athlete. And mind you, the world could see it. And so now everybody has an opinion about what I said or how KD came back at me or whatever. So it's just it's different. But I think for the long, it's always going to be like that because there are guys who played and still have bad takes or still have things they probably shouldn't say, but say it for whatever reason. And everybody's trying to eat in the space, right? And you're only going to eat if you have something to say that's going to grab people's attention. Like everybody, not everybody's going to feel one way about a particular situation, but if you're entertaining and it grabs me, people are going to draw to it. So it's just
that
a
low
business.
Hanging fruit sometimes is that hot take that's just wild, but it's going to get picked up. And it's like, are you willing to be that person who's behind that take?
And some people are. And some people are. And some people have made a living being that bad guy. Yeah. And, it's kind of like one of, it's that common rule. You remain the heel so long that you eventually turn the hero. You know what I mean? There's enough bad people out there who have had bad takes, said bad things, and probably crossed the line multiple times. But at the end of the day, you're watching them. Yeah. Because you want to hear it. You want to see the people firing squad shoot at them. and they have the they have the cojones to sit there and take it. So
Definitely.
yeah.
All right, so we are reaching the end of the game. I have some buzzer beaters for you.
Let's shoot it. Let's do it.
Okay, what is your ideal food and drink combo while sitting courtside?
Oh man, you gotta have a beer. So I'm gonna be honest. This was my favorite at Pittsburgh. I used to have a cold beer with sausage and peppers. So I loved it.
Like, do they serve that at the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in the Berg they did. See, Yankee
That's
Stadium.
definitely like a Midwest type of thing.
I love sausage and peppers and a cold beer was just like cash money for me.
Yeah.
And my wife would have like a large plate of nachos, and we were like two of the happiest, the fattest kids in America. It was awesome. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, who is one person, dead or alive, who you'd love to sit courtside with, or field side?
Field side. I would want to sit with somebody funny. I don't want to sit with nobody too serious. So I wouldn't mind sitting with Bernie Mac.
Okay.
Or Robin Williams.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Really fun.
Because I feel like they'll make it. It'll be fun. Ha ha! Craziness happens. So yeah.
We had someone say Will Ferrell at one point too. So on the same lines.
Yeah.
But in his full semi-pro outfit.
You never want to. Right. You never want to go to a game with anybody who's a bad hang. Like who just complains about the way it's too cold. Shut up. Just watch the game.
Watch the game. Eat
Enjoy
some sausage and peppers.
Just relax. Have a cold one.
And last question. What is one event in history, it could be a sporting event or other, that you would have loved to have been courtside for?
Oh, that's an awesome question, man. I would have loved to have been Thriller in Manila.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Ali.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would.
What year was that? Do you know?
It's like 70s, I think. It was in the 70s, right? Somebody on the floor? Anybody? Yeah. Yeah, 74. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like that looks. Yeah. Yeah, I would love to be that.
Yeah, that was a good era.
Yeah, I wasn't even thought back then, but it was just a twinkle in my dad's eye.
Right.
So yeah.
Cool. Willie, thank you so much for coming on the
thanks for having
Club.
me. Appreciate it.
Let everybody know where they could find you, what shows you're working on now, anything that we should keep our eye out for.
Yeah, you can find me at Will Colon 66 on Twitter or IG, Willie Colon 66 on IG. I'm on Morning Channel 82, Sirius XM Radio, Mad Dog Sports, talking everything underneath the sun. And I'm on, if you're a Jets fan, you can find me on SNY Regional from Jets pre and post. So we talk about everything Jets. And that's it right now. I'm working on a podcast. That's still coming. My wife is on a reality show.
Oh, yeah, on the OWN network, right?
Yeah, my wife is on the OWN network. Yeah. It's called Bell Collectors, Friday at 9 p.m. She plays the villain. I say that. I shouldn't say that. I'll let you judge if she's the
Every
villain.
heel becomes a hero at some point.
Yeah, exactly. But she's awesome on the show. I make a couple appearances, and I have a beer garden in the Bronx, 65 Brooklyn Boulevard. It's called Bricks and Hops. So if you're up for some wings and a cold one in a festive time, stop on in. And that's it, man. Just doing what I do.
Love that.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time.
Yeah, we're going to bump knuckles. Cool. We're cool.
Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure that you subscribe, rate, and like this video, and we'll see you next time. Bye. What's up, guys? It's Rachel DeMita. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Courtside Club. Make sure that you like, rate, and subscribe to ESPN's YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcast. We have new episodes coming to you guys every single week, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you soon.